There was a day that I became wealthy. I'll tell you the day, I know that day I was rich. I was broke, I was pissed, I was angry at everybody else but who? Myself. I had a friend that I loaned money to when I had barely enough and I knew he needed it, and I gave him $1,200, and I'm here not able to eat. I'm down to like $25, $26, and I'm saying to him, calling him, and he's not returning my call, and I just need some money, and he's ignoring me. I didn't ignore him then, so I'm pissed, I'm frustrated. In the midst of all this, I'm also pragmatic. I got 25 and change, call it $26. What the hell am I gonna do? I don't have any plans for economics. I got overhead that's crazy. I'm living in this little tiny apartment, 400 square feet in Venice, California. So I thought, okay, when I was totally broke early on, when I was 17, I used to save my money up and go to the smorgasbord and load up for Christmas, load up for the week. So I didn't drive there because I wasn't gonna spend the gas to get there, plus I needed to walk, so I walked there. And I go in, I'm not dressed really great, but it's Marina Del Rey, it's okay. And I got a place right by the window and I can see these yachts going by, and I'm dreaming of what life could be like. And I'm starting to let go of my anger, and I'm starting to focus on what I want instead of what I don't want. How many followers say I? And that shifted me just a bit. And now I'm eating, which shifted me a lot. And I got this giant plate stacked up, and I don't know what the amount was. It was like, whatever it was, $6.95, $7.95, right? So I'm gonna do this, I could probably do this 3 or 4 times, right? Somewhere in that range. As I'm finishing my meal, this little boy comes in, dressed in a little suit. I honestly don't know how old he'd be, probably in the 3rd grade, so maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that. And he opened the door for his mother, and he came over and he pulled out the seat for her, and she sat down. And she was a pretty lady, but as pretty as she was, I was totally obsessed by this boy. He had presence at 7 or 8 years old. And it moved me. I don't know why, it moved me. And I thought, this kid is like pure. I want him to always be this way. He's such a good kid, he's a giver. So I got up and I paid for the meal, and whatever it was, $6, $7. So now I've got whatever left, $17, $18, $19. And I walk up to this little boy, and I said, excuse me. And I said, I just want to acknowledge you for being such an extraordinary gentleman. I said, I saw the way you treated your lady, how you opened the door, how you pulled the chair out. I said, that's class. I said, my name's Tony, what's yours? And I don't honestly remember his name, Charlie or something. And he looked up at me and I said, Charlie? I said, that's amazing, taking your date out for a lunch like this. He goes, well, actually, she's my mom. And I said, that's even more cool. And he said, oh, but I'm not taking her lunch because I think he said he was 8. I said, oh, yes, you are. I had no plan for this. I just reached in my pocket, I took all the money I had left, $17, $18, $19, and I put it on the table. I said, you're taking her to lunch. He looked up at me and he goes, I can't take that. I said, sure you can. He said, why? Because I'm bigger than you are. And he smiled real big, and I didn't even look at his mom. I just turned and walked away. And I didn't walk out of that door. I flew home. I should have been freaking out. How the fuck am I gonna eat? But I didn't. I flew because something inside of me had finally got past scarcity. I finally realized there's something inside of us more than our limits, especially around this thing called money that I had let terrorize me. And I got home, and the mailman came that day, and I had no idea how I was gonna have my next meal. And a letter comes, and it's from the guy I loaned the money to. Handwritten note saying, I've been avoiding you, it's wrong, I'm so sorry, you were there when I needed you. Here's what I owe you plus a little bit more. And the $1,200 was there, plus another $100 for the time that I had to take care of it. And for me, $1,300, that was enough to run my show for a month or 2. And I cried, and then I decided, what does this mean? And I thought, this means that whenever you give, it's always gonna come back, so you don't have to ever think about that again. Just give. And the rewards will be greater than you can ever imagine. I don't know if that's coincidence, but I decided to believe that day was a blessing when I became rich. And I can tell you honestly, I've had tough days in my life, economically, emotionally, like all of us, but I've never gone back to that Scarcity, I never will. The secret to living is giving. Do it when you don't have it, and I promise you, scarcity will leave your life. If you and I are gonna really maximize what we're here to do, is to make sure we have all three of these. The right strategies, the best we can find, a story that we own that's real and authentic, but that we own, that's inside of us, and that we can translate to other people, but also the state to make that happen. So how do you do that? Well, everyone's different, but the first thing that'll get you in state is being fully prepared. If you can, so prepared it's in your bones, then you're not gonna have to think about what do I say, how do I say it, how am I coming across? You're gonna own it. Preparation is always number one, but then number two, you gotta get in state. And so different people do it in different ways. Some people read, some people listen to music. I love being something physical, that's my nature. But I've found that if you wanna change somebody's state, emotion comes from motion. Maybe it's time to go on a run, especially if you're finding yourself in a place where you're overwhelmed by challenges in the environment, or you're overwhelmed by just how much you gotta get done. In that frustrated or overwhelmed or stressed state, you're not gonna be your best. Everybody communicates well when they're in a great state. When you're in a lousy state, no one communicates well. That's why people get into trouble and arguments and family challenges and intimate family challenges with their loved ones. If you're gonna change that game, you gotta recognize if I'm not ready, not only with my information, if I'm not feeling where I own this, it's time to do something physical to change my state. So going for a run, lifting weights, going for a strong walk, put some great music on, whatever it is that ignites you into a different place. And I'm not saying be like me, I'm not having any suggestion that's right. I'm obnoxiously intense and passionate, but you gotta be your best. And you know whether you're there or not. And so you're telling me I failed because I didn't have the resources. And I'm here to tell you what you already know. Resources are never the problem. It's a lack of resourcefulness is why you failed. Because the ultimate resources are emotional states. If you're creative enough, can you find the answer? Yes or no? If you're determined enough, can you find the breakthrough? Yes or no? If you're passionate, loving enough, can you get someone to help you? Yes or no? If there's no way that you're committed, can you find the money even if you don't have it? Yes or no? So I said creativity, decisiveness, passion, honesty, sincerity, love. These are the ultimate human resources. And when you engage these resources, you can get any other resource on earth. And I said, so you told me all the resources you're missing and you hypnotize yourself into believing that you don't have what you want because you don't have the resources, when the most successful people in history had no resources, but they were incredibly resourceful, so they got the resources. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. And if you don't have what you want, stop telling yourself the story because you don't have the money, you don't have the time. That's bull. It's because you haven't committed yourself where you would burn your boats. If you want to take island, burn your boats, and you will take the island, because people, when they're going to either die or succeed, tend to succeed. But most of us give ourselves a way out, and that's why we don't have what we want. So if you and I really want to know what's going to take to get your dream and make it real, it's to stop all the things you told yourself that aren't. And I'm here to tell you what I said at the top of our discussion. 80% of success is psychology and 20% is mechanics. That's true of running your business, that's true of your intimate relationship, that's true of your body, that's true in your level of happiness. So you gotta know the 20% because that gives you the edge, right? Those strategies, but you gotta know the psychology.
The number one key to all success is knowledge. Knowledge. I said certainly people who succeed, they know things that other people just don't know. That's why they're so much more successful. But knowledge it is. And as soon as I wrote down knowledge in my notes, I crossed it out because that's definitely not it. How could you even write that down? Come on. You got to know better than that. See, if it was knowledge and everybody who's educated would be successful, and you know that's not true. See, knowing is great, but it's not enough. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is information. Power is something else. And what I think is the really number one key to all success is something I call personal power. This is really it. Jot it down. Personal power. That to me is the single number one foundational key to all success. If you use it, you can get everything else that you want. Personal power means the ability to take action, to follow through, take steps that are necessary to take an idea and translate it into reality.
What would you give, years from now to know you made this difference? He was playful, he owned it, he used the music to put him in state. There's so many tools. All I want you to get from this talk is don't settle for less than you can be, do, or give. Don't settle from your people. Start with you, strategy, story, state. Go after their strategy, story, state. And if there's one that's most valuable to create change quickly, change the state. Because if you don't, have you ever noticed how when you're in an angry state with somebody, you're mad at them, suddenly you can remember everything on earth they've ever done that's pissed you off? Or can you remember a time where you fell head over heels in love, or at least in lust, and suddenly what's wrong with your life? Your story changes when your state changes.